We're going to continue with the rear end of our EB48 2.1 buggy build, moving on to bag F, which contains some highly customizable parts, the rear hubs and camber links. The rear hubs and camber links bag F, contain parts that you can really use to begin to customize according to your driving style or particular race surface. Metal drive shafts that are lightweight as well as incredibly strong, and they come as a pre-built set this time round, considering previously we've had to build up these drive shafts from scratch. Also redesigned are the rear hubs, so we no longer have customizable inserts at the bottom of each hub as we did with the 2.0 kit. Instead, we can change the toe and hub height at the inner hinge pins. Finishing off, we'll be adding rear camber links, which need to be constructed beforehand, so with that said, let's get started. We'll begin by removing the hub inserts from the plastic tree, where we have several options but will stay stock for now, and inserting into the top of each hub. Next, we insert a flanged bearing into the front, and another bearing into the rear of the hub. And with the hub prepared, feed through a drive shaft, checking it's nice and free, before dropping on one of the two 17mm wheel hexes onto the axle, making sure to align the holes since we need to drop in a retaining pin. Notice the pin has a flat edge in the middle. This needs to be facing outwards so that we can insert a set screw to lock it into place. Remember to apply some thread lock to the set screw and tighten down. You may find it easier to use a 17mm wrench to hold the hex in place for this step. Again, we repeat the same steps for the opposite side, and with that said, our rear hubs and drive shafts are complete. Both should turn completely freely with no binding whatsoever. Okay, so now we're ready to install this onto the rear assembly. No rear arm inserts to install here as we did with the predecessor, so go ahead and push a hinge pin insert into each side. Next, insert the dog bone end of the drive shaft into the cup and seat the hub into position. Although before feeding the hinge pin through, we need to add shims to either side of the hub, which need to be cut from the plastic tree, 1mm in the front and 2mm in the rear. These can be a little fidgety, but will fit perfectly well. After which the hinge pin can slide through, and is secured into place with a black lock nut on both sides, holding one side with a wrench and tightening the other. Again, we don't want to over tighten here and create any binding issues, just enough so it's snug. Repeat the same on the opposite side too. So with the rear hubs and drive shafts now in place, we need to build our camber links. To do this, we need to insert the turnbuckles into the rod ends. Note the rod ends are not pre-threaded, so as we insert the turnbuckles, we'll be creating the threads at the same time. The best way to do this is to apply a small amount of grease to the turnbuckle threads, then push it hard into the rod end as you twist. You'll find it easier to then use a wrench to grip the turnbuckle as you twist the rod end into place. Repeat on the opposite side and then on the second turnbuckle too. Take care not to twist the turnbuckle in too far, as you could end up creating a dimple on the inside of the opposite end, which will in turn affect the free movement of the pivot ball. Talking of pivot balls, these can then be inserted into each end of the camber link, easy with the Tekno shock tool. If created correctly, you should have a 43.5mm gap between rod ends here. That's 14mm longer than this was on the EB48 2.0 predecessor. Anyway, once done, with the rear assembly pointing forwards, you'll notice a small notch on the turnbuckle. This notch always goes to the left side of the vehicle. One end will connect to the top of the hub and the other to the shock tower. Again, we have a lot of customization available here, although the stock positions are the outer hole on the hub, where we insert a 25mm caphead screw, complete with 8mm washer, secured with a flanged lock nut on the opposite end. The other end of the camber link attaches to the shock tower. Again, plenty of options here, but stock position being the innermost bottom hole, where we insert a 22mm caphead screw, an 8mm washer, and a countersunk washer, before feeding through the camber link, and finally securing it into place with another flanged lock nut. One side complete. Install the final remaining camber link on the opposite side, again ensuring the notch in the turnbuckle is to the left, and ensuring you're using the same mounting positions and hardware as the opposite side, before securing into place. And that's our rear end assembly pretty much complete. Everything has come together wonderfully well, and we can really see the extra tunability thanks to the new upgraded shock towers. Everything is turning nice and freely, as are the arms and camber links. Super high quality stuff. At this point we can place the rear assembly to one side and move across to the front end assembly in the next video with bag G.